Welcome to this evening's lecture. We live, work, and learn on Kalapuya Ilihi, the traditional indigenous homeland of the Kalapuya people. This land is indispensably connected to indigenous people, past, present, and future, who have survived unimaginable violence and hardship brought by colonization. We extend our respect to Kalapuya descendants, who are primarily citizens of the Confederate tribes of Grand Ronde and the Confederate tribes of Siletz Indians, as they continue to make important contributions to this region and beyond. We express our respect to the many more tribes who have ancestral connections to this territory, as well as to all the other displaced people who call Oregon home. I am Tanos Farsi, faculty in sculpture, alongside my colleague Amanda Wojcik, and it is with great pleasure that we welcome Ester Partegas to our campus today. She has generously met with our BFA and MFA students, and now we are thrilled to hear more about her work and ideas. I want to take a moment to also thank Wendy Heldman for all the various ways that she supports our visiting artists while they're on campus and in the process of getting them here. So thank you, Wendy. I came across Esther's work some years back and was struck by her approach to walking in cities, creating photographs and redistributing them within urban space to engage with site-specific practices. Also, her use of receipts, which were meticulously drawn to upend the emotional register of everyday ubiquitous objects that become surrogates for our needs and desires and perhaps propel us to consume. Her work has shifted in recent years, and while she continues to defamiliarize the ordinary, there is an even more urgent sense of corporality and play in her construction of forms. This shift moves towards further materializing the political and cultural contexts of our world while incorporating, as she states, her embodied experiences as a woman, artist, mother, and immigrant. Esther has had an endless list of accolades, and she has exhibited widely. Currently, you can see her work at the Wattis Institute in San Francisco, and it's up until April 12th, so if you happen to be in the area. You can see also a new work that Center for Art Research commissioned, and it's a billboard at our 510 Oak faculty studio buildings. Maybe we'll see a picture of it today. Which is it's in our faculty studio building, 5th and Oak. So if you're driving by in the parking lot, it's a great new piece by her there. Her work has been exhibited at Ballroom Marfa, Fundació Joan Miró in Barcelona, Essex Flowers, New York City, Pure Joy Marfa, the Drawing Center New York City, the Museum of the City of New York, Sculpture Center in New York City, Whitechapel Gallery London, among many other notable venues. She was a recipient of the 2022-23 Rome Prize, a 2014 Virginia Museum of Fine Arts Fellowship, and a 2004 Joan Mitchell Foundation grant, and has been an artist in residence at Chinati Foundation and the MacDowell Colony, among others. She joins us from New York City, where she lives and currently works and teaches at Parsons School of Design. So thank you so much and welcome.
Thank you. Hello? Yes? Yes? Good. Well, thank you very much, Tanas, Amanda, and Wendy, for bringing me all the way here. It's a really cute city, and so far so good. Great students, so lovely to be here. So today I'm going to do a presentation. I've started showing in 97, actually, or 96, I think, professionally. So it's a lot of years I've been doing this, and I'm gonna go kind of fast for the first kind of 20 years. I'm gonna jump a lot of works. I picked some that I want to talk to give a bit of a context, and then I'm gonna have this more at length second part of the lecture where I'm gonna show the work that I am currently making now, how it started. Maybe like 7 years ago or so, and I'm going to show the process, and hopefully that's how I came up with the idea, what are the changes I had to do with my work, the crisis I went to, and all that. And I think that might be hopefully a way to connect and maybe inspire students, right, that are dealing often with all these, with all these questions. And so I'm going to show behind the scenes, basically. So I'm from a small town north of Barcelona, in Spain, and a lot of my work, I guess, in a way, deals with trying to find a space in a global, capitalist world that's very distracting. And it seems that, I don't know why, but I'm doing it always through ordinary objects, the things, commodities, objects that we surround ourselves with that are ordinary or even infra-ordinary because they are so available, so around us that we don't see them anymore, we don't value them. So this was, I like to start with this as a work I did in my MFA. I studied in Barcelona and then I went to Berlin. And this is the work I am most proud of that I did during those 2 years in Berlin, 96, 97. And then from there I went to New York. And I was, a bit lost, let's say, and in this new world that was, I think the 90s started to be very aggressive, technology really started to connect the world, and the aggressive capitalism as we know it was starting really strong then. So this work is all objects made out of paper, simple paper. Remote control, a coffee maker, a small table. I wasn't respecting the scale, the proportionate scale. And there are like 3 slide projectors full of slides of different images of me jumping, walking, laying down, a little bit like accommodating my body around or on top of these objects. But the title of the installation is, Why Do I Feel Sometimes So Lost? So very directly, right, like this theme of, where is my place as a subject, right, in this world of commodities. Paper has always been my main material, and paper in many, many different ways. So you will see that. This is a work from 1999 titled Homeless. So again, this feeling of not having a place and what identifies us or what seems, to talk about who we are all these objects we carry, right? Like, shopping bags, magazines, newspapers back then, no newspapers anymore, laptops, food, a sense of angst, I guess. This is symbiosis. I made, this is like, maybe it's like 5 feet tall. I made it out of paper with all the details, and then I outsourced it someone that reproduced it exactly in wood. This is, I did a few large installations. Also the 90s was the time of installations everywhere. So it was, you tended to like disperse the objects, and what could speak more about this sense of not knowing, or this dislocation, let's say that an airport lounge. So I produce an airport waiting area. I think I made 70 of these seats. This is matte board, so it's a very strong board, that paper that I could cut very cleanly, and I produced these plants and these empty billboards, 70 chairs. And then in between all these, I placed real objects. And the objects, again, were the only clues that maybe could tell you where people were coming or flying to, or an economic status, or something like that, some more information. The rest seems to stay always in this anonymous place, clinical, clean. There is a lot of scale happening, different scales in my work. A book that left a real impression on me, and I'm saying, I don't want to be pretentious and say it was the movie. The movie not so much, but the book of Alice in Wonderland. It was the very first book I read completely in English, and I took in art school one of these side kind of classes. It said American literature, and I took it, and we spent a whole semester talking about this book and reading it. And it really was impressive. This sense of a little girl, right, that gets herself inside a hole, and enters this universe where scale primordially changes, right, and it's very random. Suddenly she's very big and bigger than anything else, and then suddenly she's very small and everything is larger, and then everything takes a different proportion psychologically mainly. So I've worked a lot. I've tried to infuse that psychology in the scale of my objects. I think it's something a sculptor can do very easily in a very effective way. This is an installation I did at Rice University Art Gallery in Houston in 2002. And the room was this very square, kind of almost corporate looking, and all I didn't need to hang anything on the walls, but I said I want the floor super, super shiny. So they kept, shining it to play with this kind of mirroring effect of this plaza. So it's kind of like a plaza. The title is Sensation, and everything again is made out of this mat board. And something that I really enjoyed, for example, for this group of sculptors was making it modular, but in a way that was collapsible, like IKEA style, if you want, where the little branches on top of the tree would pull out and get inside the next branch, and then the next branch I could pull it out and put it inside the other one. The plants fall flat, all these kind of round benches, or this urban furniture that really is to control passerbys, right? And to control your path and not make you go this way, but make you go the other way. That seems welcoming, but you really cannot sit there or lay down, right? There's a little bit of aggression in those things. So all this falls flat and it gets inside this main kind of giant ATM. And not that the public needs to know that folding, but I think you sense it, like you understand this modular. And I think early 2000s too, there was a lot of, everything became modular, right? Even the way we compose a salad, right? You go with a plate and it's like, 2 chickpeas, 3 tomatoes, right? Everything like you choose, I don't know. So those were the things I was trying to bring up in these environments. I was reading a lot Mike Davis, that unfortunately has been coming up in the news because of the fires in LA. And I took a trip to LA on purpose, like a research trip for a month, because as a European, I was like, I need to understand what this place is, right? And I did it all in a bicycle, like I was going around the city in different neighborhoods in a bicycle as a way to understand this dispersion, the anonymity. And here, this is an installation I did in Barcelona. It's like an atrium. These plants are made out of wood and all painted silver to match the floor. And then I really don't know, garbage just started showing up in my work. And I think it's because I spent a lot of time on these seemingly clean clinical spaces, and there was such a lack of liveliness, right? Everything had to be wiped out. But suddenly you find a chewing gum, here, or like fast food residual things here and there, popcorn that escapes. And I felt, wow, that's like the only kind of sign of life, of that something that carries its own death, right? Like things that are gonna die quickly, things that really are have that cycle, whereas nothing else could show. So I started playing a lot with garbage as this thing that kind of escapes our control, that it's inevitable, that reminds us of our death, if you want, or lack or impossibility of controlling completely the material world. These are a series of drawings that I think Tanaz was alluding to. They are copies of receipts, like from supermarkets, from shops, and they are also larger than a regular receipt. I think it's 300% larger, so like big drawings, and it's all pencil, mainly pencil. But what I did is I changed the title, so the name of the stores, they are all detours, so it's detours, because I wanted to talk about this psychological detour that we do when we go and purchase something. And in the list of objects, where you would have the things that you buy, I don't know, strawberries or clothing, I substituted with the sentence. So this one, for example, says, celebrating the simple things in life. Some days I feel so worthless. Take me to the other side. Usual is unusual. My peace of mind. My green light to greatness. Leave me alone. It's about getting my life back. What can go wrong? I feel lethargic. And I've been doing this for many years now. I think I started 2004 or so. But it's this way of, it seemed at some point that every thought I had could end up with a purchase, right? Like a purchase satisfies some kind of anxiety, or I feel like now that has turned into checking the phone. An excuse, like we find these sentences all the time to go check the phone. This is a sculpture, just like empty, it's cast empty pizza boxes. Something silly, like I was looking at I had like many years of garbage artwork, and I don't know, like people pile these empty pizza boxes. I don't know why they don't flatten them. But I thought it was beautiful that they keep the empty space inside. So that's all cast on polyurethane. This is, I found these on an airport too, this sentence. I don't know what it was advertising, but it says, life is tremendous. So I copied that sentence and I produced one of these. Again, this like urban furniture that has many purposes, and then all these garbage like inserted in between the plant. This is a series of, I guess it works on paper, and they are like 5 feet long, 5-6 feet. They're pretty large, and they are copies of the nutrition facts, the ingredient side of real processed food. So what I keep the real list of ingredients, and then I manipulate them on the computer, and I produce these kind of bubbles to suggest something is moving there. It's like something alien is inside that we don't know. I am fascinated by the long list of names that we don't know what they are at all, and how intimate, this stuff becomes ourselves, right? Like we put them inside. It's such an intimate relationship. The trust that we have. So it's with all this stuff, it's always like there's an attraction and at the same time a repulsion, right? Like it's incredible that we have been able to invent all this amount of ingredients out of nature, and at the same time it's incredible that we want to consume that directly. And so, yeah, these are hand-painted. I work on the computer, and then I project it and I trace it. And then, yeah, you can see a little bit close. I have to say the most satisfactory part of the process is when I paint it large and then I just rip it like that for real. And so it's like as if I'm ripping it from the real packaging. So yeah, they are works on paper. They're not exactly drawings. They're not exactly paintings. And I think they are more sculptures in a way, because the object is always there. The pointing at a 3D thing is always present. This is so you see the scale in an exhibition. So these are acrylic and airbrush on paper. And then sometimes I like to use this kind of polyester mylar that's plastic. It has this silver. And then I have to paint on enamel, oil base. Oh, and this I invented the name Polylumpus tetraflacidontics. Obviously, the irony of yeah, these names that are invented here. So during those are like the 2000s. I spent a lot of times in supermarkets, McDonald's, bus stations, airports, like taking a lot of photos. I used to have a regular analog camera, and I would took tons and tons of photos on the slides, the little plastic things. And I would go to the studio and turn off the lights and put the slides in the carousel and really watch, my photos of the world out there. And it was like this ritual of observing, in a way. Yeah, this material world outside is something that I keep looking, but I'm searching for something to see. You know, the difference. Like I look at something, but I need to see it, and I think that's when there is that transformation in the act of really seeing. This is a series of plans that are titled Overcast from 2010. And they are all cast jade plants, most of them jade plants, in polyurethane again. So it's all hard plastic. And I was really fascinated by this tradition of covering in plastic or, normally it's in plastic, some plants during winter to protect them. Because for me, again, this is like, these two acts that is always ambiguous. Are we protecting or are we suffocating, right? Where is the line that this is too much or it is too little? And working with these two seemingly contradictory feelings or emotions or actions is something that I am concentrated or focused on working now with the sculptures I'm making. So this theme keeps coming back. Also, this polyurethane is like really like liquid plastic. That's how it feels. I think it gives more of a suffocation kind of sense. Yeah. This is a series of casts also with clear polyurethane. I was really using, I think that one has no pigment, and here it was like 1 or 2 drops of liquid pigment, very, very little. I wanted to recreate the street markets or even construction sites where the classic blue tarp that you can buy at the hardware store covers these temporary architectures. And I wanted to produce something that could speak of street life, public life, where you walk on the street, you walk and you see things, but you don't have time. You don't how to say, like, there's something immaterial in public space. There's a lot of liveliness and experiences, but nothing seems to remain. The street was, for my first 15, even 20 years of being an artist, the street and public places, as I said, supermarkets, all this stuff was my place for inspiration. That's how I recreated with these metal structures. The pieces are meant to be walk around and see this kind of, they become like ghosts, like people become ghosts, or there is a lot of, it has these kind of watery wrinkles. Yeah, it's called the passerby. So alluding to that ephemeral passing. Also, all these objects, from the tarps to the fast food packaging, garbage, everything is ephemeral. All these materials and things are on the border of becoming refusal, trash, right? It's like a very short moment that I seem to catch them. And I'm interested in that, like almost rescuing them from an immediate death or from a bluntness of the material world. Okay, and here I went into crisis. Not crisis, but I had been working, reproducing objects for almost 20 years, and I think what I was trying to get out of this series of passerby, I was close but not close enough, and very drastically I was like, I'm quitting sculpture. It was all very dramatic, and I had yes. So to put it very simplistic, I was like, I need to find. I don't know what I'm looking for, but this is not who I am right now. So let's stop making stuff, and I don't know, don't do anything or think. And I went to my notes. Normally, what I used to do, I stopped doing the slides, and then I was with the phone, right, taking photos of stuff on the street. And then I would arrive to my studio and print them, usually black and white, cheap, and cut them and put them. So I have a lot of these notebooks full of these images. And I would write stream of consciousness, something that, this plant or this window, something made me take that photo, and there was some calling there, like I was doing that for a reason. And usually I would transform that into sculptures. So I said, no, stop, you cannot do sculpture. You just have to look at these notes and see what happens. And after a while, I started thinking that I should articulate these notes, like the writing. I never put much effort on, it was just a stream of consciousness. It's like, what's the real thought here? What is this, I don't know, this motorcycle telling you, or the plastics around the motorcycle? So that after a year or so became these paper flyers that Tanaz was talking about. And I was so tired, like the crisis was crisis of a sculpture, crisis of gallery system, crisis of art world, crisis of carrying, materials, not being able to make money out of that, paying storage. I mean, it's just so tiring, right? Like sculpture, it's insane, especially, in New York, that it's I don't have a car. How do I, to get any, like a piece of plywood, it's like an insane. So I was really exhausted. And then little by little, by the notes, I had to kind of learn to write, because I never kind of forced myself to make any sentence like properly in a way. So I was writing, and I started becoming so happy that I couldn't stop the art. Like the art was happening in me, and that I was so happy that the art thing cost me like 10 cents, right? I would go, and I started black and white, and then I was like, okay, I can pay 80 cents for the color photocopy. And so I would keep taking these photos of stuff on the street, situations on the street, and then write these sentences and just put them out there on the street. I didn't need a gallery. I didn't need anything. So I became so free, and I was so happy to participate in the city. To me, it was like honoring the street life that has given me so much. And it was like, wow, I'm part of this fabric. I'm going to leave these things. I was putting them anonymously, no reference there. The only condition was that wherever I took the photo, like this thing is still in Chinatown, and I go visit it, and it has different stickers on it. So if it's in Chinatown, I have to go back and place these flyers in Chinatown, right? So I did that in several parts of New York. I did these in other cities that I visited. If I stayed more than a few days, I would produce these flyers and hang them. And this one is the one that titles the series. They are called Invisible Forces, because I see the street and the objects and stuff on the street as these invisible forces that participate not only in the city, but in the life of the citizens. So this sentence here says, a limb comes up from the underbelly the way a submarine comes out of the ocean. It doesn't go unnoticed, and soon will carry back messages collected from the surface of the earth, doodles, quick tags, incomprehensible names, and made-up symbols, mundane phenomena capable of summoning the invisible forces that surround us. I saw that in Brooklyn, right? Like this stamp next to the lamppost. And to me, it's like almost this surrealist situation right there. And the sentence said, the challenge exists in embracing the forces of sympathetic attraction, going beyond basic need or survival strategy, a beautiful act of empathy, full-hearted reciprocity, perhaps a desperate proximity bordering on suicide. And then this is like how I would disperse them. These I did in the desert town in West Texas. This is like just the facade of two houses made out of adobe that are completely falling apart. And it says, windows or eyes, doors or mouths, cracks or sweat, masks or stage, coarseness or sorrow. Definitely sorrow. For the defacement has taken place, the labor of the desert, background becoming background, becoming background. That's another one in Marfa. Okay, so I made a lot of these, and little by little, I started having shows with these flyers. I started the poetry festival in Marfa, invited me without knowing that I had this work, and I thought, oh my God, this is perfect. Like there's this little poetry in the sentence. So I produced 10 of photos taken in Marfa and around Marfa. So my participation in the festival consisted of hanging those around town. So it was this free poetry that was distributed in this way. When that happened, I would put my name on the flyer, and I would put poetry festival, or whatever was the, yeah. I'm gonna read this one. The covers appear as ghosts that in their distracted daily stroll get trapped by some protruding device. These are ghosts that prefer to emulate human life, tired of not ever being seen. Accepting the texture of time and its density, the ferocity of the wind and the chromatic skills of the sun, they have chosen a life sculpted by others. These, I did this, that was a great project. There is a biennial that's super interesting that takes place, it's called the Trans-Border Biennial. So it's a biennial that takes place in El Paso, and the border town of Ciudad Juarez, right? So they're like twin cities, one in Mexico, the other in the United States. And every 2 years, they have a biennial with artists that live along the border in both places, and they exchange the works. So I spent some time in Ciudad Juarez on the streets taking photos, and some time in El Paso, and I produced a few flyers with images of both, and I also spent time going back and hanging them around places. I saw these 2 benches chained, I don't know why, in downtown El Paso. One of the most archaic and powerful ideas in our Western belief system holds our personality as double. Each one of us is composed of a social, fake outer layer and a more pure, authentic self hidden inside. Never able to quite shake the other off, we live split, prisoners to ourselves. And that's a Jew's place in Juarez. With the. So I have many of these. One day I hope to make a book. I think they would be good, like one flyer on each page. This was the East Village. This was in Vermont, I think. East Village again. So that, that took me like a couple of years of my life. And then one day I went back to the objects and I was like, okay, here we go, sculpture again. And it's like, I just want to reproduce this bucket. So, I like the stupid bucket and then the big cardboard bucket. And I spent days and weeks looking at these, not knowing really what I was doing. But I was like, I cannot go back to this and do it the same way I did. So there was something about reproducing the object that I needed to do, but I felt that the object was very removed from me, and I couldn't break the meaning completely. And I didn't know what to do. So I went and I thought of artworks that I really liked it. Like you pick like 3, and you concentrate on these artworks. And it's like, what is this about these artworks that, they're so compelling to me? And there was a gap also of the artwork I was doing and the artists or artworks I really admire. Like there is a big gap. Even themes or books that I was reading, and it's like, I need to bridge this gap. So these artwork by Nikki de St. Paul and his husband, Jan Tingeli, and these other artists, I cannot pronounce the name, Udbet, Norwegian artist. They built this giant half body of a woman. It's titled She Cathedral. And the artwork doesn't exist anymore, but it was like people could walk inside, and there were rooms inside. There was a second floor. I think there was a slide. There was a kitchen. There was a workshop for children, all inside this giant belly. And I kept thinking, and it's like, wow, this is the artwork that does all these things that I want to do. This artwork seemed important to me because it was a sculpture. It also was painting, or at least had the potential to hold color. It was also architecture. The materials were tactile. It was a feminist artwork. In the sense that there was a celebration of women's bodies, but also a critique, and it was political. Women's bodies, presenting women's bodies as something that it's public. Anyone can enter a woman's body, and we know that's true politically. Everyone decides, for ourselves, so that's this way of entering. It also talks about pleasure, though. It includes children. Not only that the children can go in, but the artwork is also for the eyes of children and for the eyes of adults. It also talks about daily life, right? All these activities, and it reproduces some kind of a home inside. and it's also a cathedral, and I kept thinking, wow, like that they named this a cathedral, right? It's this larger than life, monumental belly in a way. But I think it also refers to the sacred and the profane, right? Like what is more profane than going in or coming out of a vagina? We all have done that, right? And but at the same time is the most sacred act. So it's like, it's, you know, it's the biggest mystery in many ways. So I spent time like, how do I work with that? So here I am with reproducing objects, not knowing exactly where to go. And I knew at that moment I had my daughter, I think she was maybe 3. And I had been doing those polyurethane, a lot of polyurethane. I was welding those metal structures. And I remember she was very little and she could not enter the studio. I was with like full-on mask, right? Like for gas mask, grinders and pieces of metal that were very dangerous on the ground. And I started feeling terrible that she could not come in. Not because she could not come in, but it's like, how can I be an artist that talks about everyday life and not let everyday life be part of the studio, right? So there was something much more organic and fluid that I wanted to incorporate. There's a messiness. I had to come up, like the new work I'm doing has to be safe for a child to come in, has to be safe if she breaks the object, if she scribbles on the object, I should not care. And it has to be a type of work, materials that I can be interrupted, because motherhood is, you are being interrupted all the time, right? So I can do something and let it go and come back later. So I started putting some conditions, right? I made a real list of like, I want the work to do this, to be that. I wanted to invent a form. That was very frustrating because I was copying, and I couldn't seem to go past that form that's already given by the commodity. So I simply was like, I want to invent a form, and I want to work in a way that I am making something that doesn't exist already, that it refers to something that exists, but it's new. And an undiscerned separation between form and content, right? Like the form that I am creating has to speak of its own content. This one was a big one for me for many, many years. I was very jealous of painters for a lot of reasons, but the main reason was that not because they sell much more, but because I really admire a traditional way of paint. I don't know if traditional, but there's a tradition of painting like that. That it's when the painter doesn't know the final image of that painting, right? So the painter goes and stains the canvas, takes a few steps back, looks, waits for the next thing to go, goes back and stains, and it's a call and response, and it means that you have to be very present, you have to be there, and that the image starts revealing itself precisely in that kind of conjunction, right, of the painter and the materials right there. And the painter works with this unknown. James Hillman, a Jungian theorist, talks about how there are some cultures, hunter cultures, that they don't have a plan for hunting. They just get together and they sit in ritual and wait to get get the feeling right? Like you wait for the feeling that tells you now it's the right time to go hunt the animals, right? We don't know how to do that. We lost that sense of knowing when is the right moment for something. So that was also conditioned. It's like I need to work, like I want to be present all the time. the body, right? So the body had been in my sculpture, but it was very, there was something still very optical in the work before, and removed that didn't need my body besides the instrumentalization of, making the things. But the body was not deciding much or not enough as I wanted. And the body, here I have these photos because of observing my daughter and how they move, and also observing myself in domestic tasks. I started making a list of actions that we do that are very unglamorous, let's say, right? Laying down, leaning against, pushing, supporting, touching, hiding, and that you see that a lot with children, and with women relating to children, and they don't seem to be part so much of the history of a sculpture. And politics, right? Like politics, suddenly, it took me a long time to know why I was picking the laundry basket, because the laundry basket seemed to be this black hole in the universe of the house, right? It's like you throw things, like the thing disappears, right? It's there. It's like a mouth. But obviously it's not a black hole because it's related to woman's body and labor, right? And they are designed, a lot of them, to be held on your hips. So it's like, here we go, right? This object carries all these politics from the beginning. And then one day, I started thinking about architecture. So these started resembling these. And then I started putting together, this is Catalan Gothic. And I grew up with a lot of Gothic architecture. And the Catalan Gothic is a bit different than the Northern European Gothic. It's more horizontal, and it has thicker walls, and it favors a lot of empty space, which I find really beautiful, rather than the Nordic European Gothic that tries to reach high up. I am more of a earthy, horizontality. So this kind of started not making so much sense, but again, I like the idea of the sacred and the profane, and churches as a spiritual and places of retreat, but also traps, right? Belief system traps, or more like emotional traps, if you want, or places that are very imposing. And I started really being able to work with the laundry baskets once I cut one in the middle. That's simple. I cut one and suddenly, sorry, that should be here. That thing that was only an object started becoming architecture, or a space I could walk inside, right? Like opening it made me walk inside. So this is the first laundry basket I made. It's titled Codependence, and it's like a throne, but it's also a mouth. And I started, so the way I start is like I produce the basket, I copy a basket. It's made out of, as you've seen, it's this corrugated cardboard. I cover the cardboard with cotton fabric soaked in glue, and that keeps the cardboard really strong and very light. And then I cover it with a mix of paper mache, sometimes plaster, sometimes the same fabric doubled. I also use plywood, a lot of recycle or things that I find, rebars, and I start cutting it really, and not knowing what's the final shape. So I start piling things and producing. I want to produce an object or something that holds seemingly contradictions together, right? Like it has to be inviting, but it has to be also menacing or threatening. It has to be familiar and welcoming, but it might fall on you and become, become quickly a ruin, or it is already a ruin. here is I want to read this short a couple of sentences from Frances Stark, an LA-based artist that wrote a book in 2009 called The Architect and the Wife. I presume a housewife is someone who will stay and maintain the home, decorate, arrange, rearrange, prepare, wash, put things away, bring them out again. The house not being a site of accumulating production, but a site of a series of simultaneous production, save for the fact that the home isn't falling apart. A supposedly good housewife maintains a busy environment, which should appear as if nothing has ever happened. Right? Again, this invisibility of women's bodies and actions. Nothing is being built per se. The architect, on the other hand, solves problems that the public doesn't think about, but which affect their consciousness of the environment, from things as essential as material, lighting, and scale, to more socially articulated needs like safety, cost, codes, etc. But my thought was the architect and the housewife produce architecture or build society at the same rate. But one does an invisible labor that seems ephemeral and that has not capitalized, and the other capitalizes, and it's takes over visually. So these works also show the process. A lot of the cuts, a lot of the how do you call it? It's like a Band-Aid, like they have wounds, and I put this Band-Aid. And it took me a while to accept all that, right? But I also want the viewer to enjoy that process, right? To be a viewing experience where you do your own discoveries as well. And then this is an image of the pandemic, right? The pandemic came, and I really had my child in the studio, right? Because there was no other place to go. I was building this basket, and she helped me, and then she wanted to play with the basket, right? And I said, okay, I'll lend it to you for a couple of weeks. And it was really interesting to observe what she would do. So she, of course, like this immediate necessity we have as humans of producing a shelter, right? It's I think we see that with children too, like the forts, like this constantly necessity to be covered, to be inside, protected. So I let her play, and she draw directly on the basket, and I left it there. And this is the final work that has her drawings inside, but outside is this kind of cut basket, and it's like an animal trap, right? Like if you push this stick, it can beat you or it can hurt you. And I was trying to work a lot with these feelings of being home, being a mother is the loveliest and the most tender thing ever, but you feel trapped and you feel really bored and you feel like you're losing your mind because the home becomes this place that's really loaded. I have another short text here by a book by Dennis Hollier that is dedicated to the writings of George Bataille, and it's titled Against Architecture. George Bataille denounces architecture as a prison warden, its complicity with authoritarian hierarchies. Architecture is society's authorized superego. There is no architecture that is not the commendatores, the boss. There's been endless arguments over whether the origin of architecture was the house, the temple, or the tomb. For Bataille, it was the prison. When I read that, I was like, wow, because all the archaeologists and historians are always, looking at menhirs and the first architectural expressions that humans did, and they're like, oh, is this a house, or is this a temple, or is it a tomb? And then Bataille says it's a prison, right? So these are all the spaces I'm interested in putting together. And he says that, architecture is a society's authorized superego. Palaces, cathedrals speak and silence society at the same time. These are some, here's some of the drawings, very subtle. This is another work that it's always present, and I wanted to bring it. It's Mona Hatoum, and simply by enlarging a very domestic, kind of innocent, supposedly innocent object, it turns it into a torture machine. So I think she also talks about this violence inside the house, this violence against bodies. So this is, sorry, let me go back for a second. During the pandemic, at the beginning I did this basket, and I decided to utilize the whole basket and make several sculptures, but they all had to consider all the parts of this basket. So this is one of the handles. And I was lucky enough, I was in Marfa, and there was a small bookstore gallery that gave me a show. Everything was shut down, but people could see the show from the walls outside. And then it became really interesting because people had to call and make an appointment. So I had to take everybody, right? And we were all wearing a mask, and one was at the end of, at one end of the space, and I was at the other. But it was such a beautiful way of connecting with people. I had to explain the show many times. So it became something that was socially distant. It became the most intimate experience I've had with an exhibition. And this is the last kind of wall of that basket. And here as you can see, most of the sculptures, they don't hold themselves. They need other objects or other bodies to hold the main body. So of course I'm talking about support, right? Fragility or vulnerability. Sorry, this one has all these like cleaning sponges that are holding part of this big mouth. And here, this kind of wall piece, it's held by this piece of plywood. And I cut all the t-shirts that we had. I cut the necks. I was really interested in the labels, that such a small little thing that we all have. On one side there's the brand, and it's very glamorous, and you have that side, but on the other are the care instructions. And so that more vulnerable part, but also where it's made in, and it's made probably very cheaply in places where labor and is very cheap. So you have the politics, like it seems like in that little space you have all these things together. This is another piece that, my daughter painted inside. This is a show I had in 2022 in Madrid. This work is called Crying Sun, because, I don't know, it reminded me of a sun, and then it had these two. So there's a knitted scarf and a very, very long supermarket receipt. So it's like the two tiers of the eyes or something like that. This one is called Facade, and it's a pretty large piece, hold only with this long rebar, and that more peach colored piece would be a piece that it's part of the top, if you can see. And it hides all these, the maintenance, right? All these things that we always hide, are always behind what's more presented as shiny or monumental. It's here. This one is called Shelter. this one is called Line, and I was lucky to spend a year in Rome, and I applied for the Rome Prize with the intention of studying the architecture there. And this one obviously came from an aqueduct. It's still the basket, right? But it has this aqueduct. And the aqueduct was interesting to me because it was this structure that would bring the water into the cities. So it's a structure of support, right? And the high chairs, the baby chairs, are also of support, but they are also of entrapment, right? So here I have the baby chair kind of being held by this basket or aqueduct. So very interested, if you think of those, the plants that had the plastic on top, is this question always like, are we free or are we trapped, right? So, you know. This one is called Real Estate, and it's part of that basket. Again, this cleaning, the cleaning cloths, almost making a building upside down, like a skyscraper. And that reminded me of the Twin Towers. And yeah, I'm just... these are whole just by needles, very provisionally. Some cast strawberries. I just want to show there are some. These are some works by Piranesi from the set. He was how do you call etchings? Yeah. He was not an etcher. He was yeah, something like that. Yeah, he was making prints, very, very detailed. And these are 16 etchings called Imaginary Prisons, Carcere d'Invenzione. And they depict, normally he was depicting, you know, Rome in its full splendor as an empire. And suddenly he has these 16 that are very obscure, and they depict an imaginary underground with tunnels, torture, chains. To me, it's almost like the, you know, the subconscious, right? It's there. Yeah, that was also very inspiring for making the sculptures. These also Giotto. So that's the real Giotto, and that's me with Photoshop. So you go to Italy, right? And historical paintings are everywhere, religious paintings, right? And it's always the same story. And I felt maybe the oppression that all these artists had to, were not so free. They had to keep depicting the same story. And Giotto has incredible architectures behind, you know, the people. It's like, let's get rid of the people and see what happens, right? And then you see that he invented, I mean, he was quoting some real buildings, but the scale is completely off. They are not realistic on any sense, and they work symbolically, but to me, I feel that's where he had his freedom. Like, not so much the story that he was telling with humans, but how he was inventing these kind of dystopian places in a way. And this, I think that's the last thing I have to show you as references, the Etruscan necropolises. There are some, so the Etruscans was a culture that was a bit, how do you say it, was around Rome, north of Rome before the Romans, and they suffered, you know, the Roman Empire completely, or absorbed them or annihilated them. But we don't have their real houses didn't survive because they were made out of adobe and ephemeral material. But they would take care of their dead by carving these tombs directly into the rocks. This rock is like a volcanic rock. It's very porous, so it has a lot of holes, and they say easy to carve. So they would carve, and what was beautiful is that they would also carve the shape of a bed. So you see these beds, and some of them had even pillows carved. So it was, again, like playing house. It's like we're all playing house somehow. And, very often it was two beds, and people that had bigger families or more, they could pay more artisans. They could do another chamber and another chamber. So you would have different bedrooms with different beds. And they have still so much, they don't have the capacity of the means to dig all these tombs. So we found an area that you could freely go, just walk into this forest, and it's full of these holes. It's incredible. And it's really interesting that it's open there. So that was also very inspiring. When I was there, I decided, I think what I'm doing is minor architecture, right? Against this monumental architecture, I'm doing minor spaces that I think instead of going up, they go more down, that are places of concentration, be it, a spiritual. So all these places that were like tombs or crypts or even little, how do you call, cells, were really interesting to me. And again, they're holding, they are being held by other objects. And this is the last show. Actually, this is the work that's right now at the Watties, but it's the show started at Ballroom Marfa. This piece is called Host, and the tunnel. There is a lot of tunnels. It's a chair upside down, but I was thinking on how bodies are so penetrable by external forces. So the chair stands here a little bit as a body upside down. I use bricks. A lot of my real objects belong to my life. Not that you need to know that, but I think they come to me from an experience, so they're more meaningful when I'm working with them. I've also started to think about real objects, like in this case, right, the chair or the bricks, and then the fictional ones that are the ones I reproduce. And how it starts making sense, because there's so much debate between what's real and what's fiction. So I think that's something I might wanna work more explicitly, mix these two worlds, let's say. This sculpture is called Twilight, and it's the basket too, kind of upside down. And I wanted to do two different faces. This is like, let's say maybe the happy side, like decorated, and there is a tunnel. I was thinking how children hide under tables, and then on the other side, again, maybe there is a trap, or there is, you don't know where this tunnel goes. It might go under, but just suggesting a different, psychic energy there, let's say. As you can imagine, my studio is full of fragments because I cut these things and then I keep all these fragments. So for example, this one doesn't necessarily speak about, it's not a laundry basket. The chair with the tunnel was not a laundry basket, but it comes from these remnants that I repurpose. This one is called Half. So also referring to, we always get half of things at face value, right? There is only half of the story. This one is called Two Moons. Yeah, and I wanted to produce a space for one, like a party of one, for one person. Yeah, and leave the outside inside ambiguous. You know, are you really locked inside or you're not? It's, you know. I think this is the last sculpture I have. These are rebars, and this work is held just by, you know, its own weight on these steel rebars. That a lot allude to buildings. And I reproduce, again, with this polyurethane that I like so much. I can help but work with plastic once in a while. These friendship bracelets that children wear. I know I have these other sculptures. These are some of these fragments that I've started to hang on the wall. And I am happy if they point to they have to, they are sculptures, right? Like they have to point enough to a 3D space, to an architecture, to be enough for me to hold it there. They're titled In You, and U as a capital U, to refer to this arch. A lot of arches in this work, and arches as this structure that seems to hold, to protect us, to give us the minimum of a house over. And last, I want to just show these drawings I've been doing, arches. I was talking, this is a triumphal arch in Rome, but then going back many thousand years before, these menhirs that are the first expressions we have of architecture or of a sculpture. I made these drawings trying to reproduce these very basic structures or accumulations. You also see that with children, right? When they start learning to put one block on top of the other is like such a huge step forward, right? And they start having the consciousness of building starts arising there. And wondering, you know, what we build when we build, what do we build when we build, and what are we proposing with buildings? So these are pencil. It's pencil, and it's all bread. I copy bread, but it's bread that behaves like stone. And then I needed I started making these drawings with the smaller papers, and I use just tape to hold the papers, thinking that I would get a much bigger paper when I knew what I was doing. Till one day I saw the tape, and I thought, I think the tape works. It's holding the different papers. It's working together. It's working like the sculptures. These fragments that hold each other, and how these silly little things like, you know, these stickers and washi tapes that again are part of our daily life. They are again infra-ordinary. They're of no consequence apparently, but are holding this structure together. Yeah, so this bread, again, that is behaving like stone, speaks of how, bread, nurture, all that more invisible actions have been holding society and have been building civilization the same way as big buildings. Thank you. Ah, yeah.
Kind of like when you think backwards to it, and kind of, I guess, like how you see that evolving kind of as she gets older.
Oh, yeah. So they said if if I could speak about the involvement of my daughter, and how do I see that in the future, right? Evolving. Yes, at the beginning, it's funny because the first years I was doing those flyers and I was doing those tarps, and people would ask me, "Oh, that's motherhood, effect." I was like, "No, I'm doing, no, it's just, So I was very like, and then everything crashed, right? Because it was impossible. Like, it makes you question so many things, right? So you can decide if you want those questions to enter your creative world or not. And at some point I said yes. And at some point, all those feelings of tiredness, boredom, irritability, but also love, infinite love, care. It's like, oh, wait a second, that's the material. The material is not the paper or the wood. The material is that stuff. And once I was able to see that, that's when really the work was like, boom, And the involvement, I don't know, because now she's older and you cannot ask a kid what to do, even if you like, hey, do you want to help me? The answer is no. So it's no. But I am there and I observe and I'm learning. And I don't know, she doesn't need to be helping me directly, but it's a world that she's open up and that she keeps opening and surprising because they grow at such a big rate that it's this constant change that you have to adapt to, and it brings you so much to your own past, and it brings you to a future. It's so rich that just by her being there, I think it's helping me be a better artist. So I don't know the future, but if you ask her if she wants to be an artist, she says no and refuses everything. But they don't know. They don't know. So, yeah, I don't know. Sorry, I cannot answer, more precisely. But I always observe what she does, and this is her stickers, and yeah. And to me, it's a learning every day. And that, to me, as an artist, like I want that in my life, or I want that learning, right? That pushes things in me and pushes things in my artwork to be there. So I think that will always be there, in a way. Mm-hmm.
Do you still integrate poetry and writing into your current body of work?
No, but I was like, since I've been doing these baskets, I was like, I don't want to do the writing. Like, I don't want. I've been kind of strict not to have words, and not to have images, like photo-based images. But I have to say, 2 weeks ago, I wrote a friend of mine who's an amazing poet if she wanted to collaborate. And then I was like, oh, you're here again, like the words. I don't want the words, but so I don't know. I put rules and then I disobey those rules. So the answer is I have no idea. But what I know is that you've seen my work changes so much, right? And what I have to trust is always that intuition. Like the creativity will tell me what to do. So I don't know. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Other questions?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, coming from Catalonia, another culture, I'm just wondering if was this nostalgia ever in your art like that? Because you did, that part I can really like that part when you say, oh, the street and the interaction
Yes.
with people on the street.
Yeah.
You come from La Garriga, which is a very for me. I wonder if this childhood and this street.
Yeah.
We find very important as Catalans is something
Yes.
that in your art or no, because sometimes it's not different.
Yeah.
Want to escape from where.
Yeah.
Want to forget who you were when you were younger.
Yeah.
The city
Yeah. Yeah, there are a lot of these things like, yeah, the street for sure. I live in New York, so it's like, okay, I can live in New York, but I tried to live in other places that are not New York 3 times, and I'm like, I just cannot do the car. I need the street, you know? It's very important. It's a place, yeah, of encounters, and even though that, you know, my work these last few years is it seems more inside, right, less a street. To me, it's really important. But then I have to say that my parents my dad is a pastry chef, pasticé. So the bread is like, this bread, right? Or even like there's always food in some way, even if it was fast food, right? Or if it was, I have many more works with other kinds of food. Food has always been there in some way or another. And food appears really as this building block. So food is there, and I think it comes from obviously our culture as well. There's a lot of things like the architecture. I don't have a relation with sculpture, like historical sculpture, but I have it with architecture and painting, and you know we have a lot of that there, right? And there was something else that I wanted to mention. I forgot. But yeah, there are, you know, it's there in a way. It's something I really wanted to escape. Not these things, the street, the food, all fine. But I don't know if it happened to you, but we went to school many years ago, and you know, they make you study the Greeks and the Romans. And I kind of hated that. It was like the Greeks and the Romans, and they don't really explain it well. And it seems like, you know, there was a big bang, and then there were the Greeks and the Romans, and you're like, you know, right? Because it was so old-fashioned, and it was like, and then I couldn't stand the mythology. Like you had to remember these names, and they didn't make an effort to explain how can that relate in your life. And to me, that was my worst, and I hated the aesthetic. I still do, but you know, those big buildings. I can't stand the Renaissance. There's so much. I'm like, no. But I grew up in La Garriga, in this tiny town, and we have Roman ruins in the town. Yeah, there's Roman ruins, like the Romans. So I escaped to the States, let's say, and I didn't want to think about these people. And then I applied for the Rome Prize, right? And I got it, and my partner was like, "Are you sure?" And he said, "There is all that architecture, there's all these churches. Are you sure?" You know. But then I went, it's like, I have to read these in my own way, right? So it's interesting that I went under, right? I went under the tunnels, the crypts, like, you know. So yeah, that's the thing that I really didn't want. Yeah.
Well, that seems like a great place to end.
Thank you.